And we welcome you back to the Real Impact Daily Inspiration Series with Dennis Henson and yours truly, Richard Dugan, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Dennis, welcome back. And we've got a really good story that we're going to share with people today. I'll be honest with you, we always have a really good story to share with people, don't we?
Well, I enjoy them.
I do too. Well, we're gonna go into a story entitled You Can Do It.
You Can Do It. Mary Kathleen Wagner was born in Hot Wells, Texas in the early 20th century. She was a spirited, adventurous, and delightful girl whose favorite color was pink. Mary was an exceptional student in elementary school, though her childhood wasn't what most people considered normal. When she was 7, Mary's father became bedridden. This forced her mother to get a job to provide the family's income. So she was left to cook, clean, wash dishes, do laundry, care for her father, and even do some shopping. Mrs. Wagner didn't relish leaving a child with so much responsibility. However, her job demands left her no other option. So Mary bravely accepted the duties usually expected of a grown woman. Being away from home so often, her mother strove to instill in Mary the confidence to complete her onerous duties. When faced with a problem, the little girl telephoned her mother for guidance. Mrs. Wagner always found time to talk and would encourage Mary by repeating, "Don't worry, honey, you can do it. You can do it." Mary received many honors in high school, including graduating at the top of her class. However, after graduation, when most of her friends were headed for college, her family couldn't afford the tuition. Consequently, Mary stayed in Houston, married, and started a family. The young mother loved and wanted the best for her kids, so Mary's heart was broken when a door-to-door sales lady offered to sell her a set of children's books. She truly wanted those books, but couldn't afford them. The sales lady saw that Mary wanted those books. "What if I could get them for you for free?" Mary was all ears. "How?" "Well, if you help me sell 10 sets, say to your friends, I'll give you a set." "You will do that?" "Yes, I'll leave these here, and we can start on Monday." But the good mother didn't wait until Monday. That weekend, she sold all 10 sets. The following week, when the lady learned what Mary had done, she exclaimed, "With your kind of talent, you should be in direct sales." Then she offered Mary a commission for any additional books sold. 9 months and $25,000 of book sales later, Mary couldn't believe the amount of money she'd earned or how much she'd enjoyed earning it. However, books didn't lend themselves to repeat sales, so she made it her mission to find something that did. A short time later, Mary discovered Stanley Home Products. She realized she needed sales training when her first attempts with the new products failed. Borrowing $12 from a friend, Mary took a train to Dallas to attend Stanley's National Convention. At the meeting, the company's top sales lady received special recognition and a grand prize. Mary resolved, "Next time, I will be the one receiving the glory and getting that prize." Introducing herself to the reigning queen, she convinced her to demonstrate a Stanley party. Mary took 19 pages of notes at that party. On the train ride back to Houston, she memorized every word. Her ingenuity paid off. The following year, Mary was crowned Stanley's Queen of Sales. Having found something enjoyable that paid well, she relished her freedom to spend time with her children. Stanley paid her commissions for both selling and recruiting. Mary was consistently a top producer and successfully recruited more than 150 salespeople. However, Mary resigned when Stanley insisted she move to Dallas and refused to continue her Houston commissions. Yet with her track record, securing a similar position with the World Gift Company was no problem. There, her sales and recruiting success continued, and she quickly earned the position of National Training Director. For the next 11 years, Mary poured her heart and soul into World Gifts and successfully opened an additional 43 states for them. Many of her recruits became the company's top producers. With all the new business and her ability to hire and train, World Gifts placed Mary on their board of directors. Yet to her dismay, her suggestions and ideas were met with skepticism and negativity. Other board members would often say, "Mary, you're thinking like a woman." And though her team members were the company's top performers, Mary received little praise. But rather than being moved to a better place or getting more pay, she watched as the recruits that she trained were promoted. Those men received salaries twice that of Mary's. The final straw came when a position she'd earned was given to someone less qualified. Mary knew the reason she was passed over was that she was female. Then, when her expression of concern was met with apathy, she resigned. Depressed and out of work, Mary started writing a book about her experiences, a composition to help women avoid the obstacles she faced. Becoming an author was challenging. Not sure how to proceed, Mary wrote down every good thing her employers had provided. Then she listed the problems she'd encountered and those things that might have been done better. Once she'd finished and reread her notes, it became apparent that her creation was more of a marketing plan than a book. It was something that women could use to accomplish anything if they were simply willing to pay the price. That's it. I'll create a company to provide women with the opportunity to be the best that they can be. Mary Cathlin was inspired. In her dream, she saw hundreds of women breaking the bonds of a society where the rules and norms were stacked against them. She imagined them being rewarded for their successes and encouraged to do better and to have more. Mary's mind was spinning. Her company needed great products that women could use, believe in, and recommend to others. For days she anguished over what would work. Then it came to her. Products that women could use. Every woman by the age of 20 already believes she's a cosmetics expert, and cosmetics are repeatable, affordable, glamorous, and there's already a big market for them. So Mary knew that she'd found the perfect product. Her next step was to find the right products. While searching for suppliers, she remembered a lotion she'd used for years. It was a cream that softened her skin and made her face feel wonderful. Best of all, it was made exclusively by a local friend. So Mary purchased the rights to that formula. Her new business was taking shape. It had a great marketing plan and an incredible product. All that remained was for her to take action, so she and her husband George went to work producing the product and putting together the company's structure. George would manage the business and financials, and Mary would handle the sales. They located a nice office in Dallas and signed a lease. But tragically, a month before the company was to open, George suffered a heart attack and died. Distraught, Mary wondered, how can I go on? Yet everything she owned was tied up in the new business, so a decision had to be made. Mary pondered, if I go this alone, who can assume George's responsibilities? While still dealing with grief, her attorney and accountant strongly recommended that she forget the opening, liquidate the inventory, and find something else. They predicted failure and bankruptcy, not only for the business, but for her as well. All her friends and even some family urged her to give up and move on. No one would have blamed her for walking away. It seemed to be the right thing to do. However, Mary's children did not share the professional's feelings and encouraged her, insisting, "Mom, you can do it. You can do it." Then her eldest son handed her his bank book, which contained his life savings, $4,500, stating, "I can't think of anyone I'd rather invest in than you." Subsequently, all her children agreed to pitch in and help with the business. Hearing her mother's words again, words she'd said to her children numerous times, plus their willingness to pitch in, were just what Mary needed. From the depths of despair, and with every odd stacked against her, Mary Kay Cosmetics took shape on September 13, 1963, marking the beginning of one of the most remarkable and inspiring business successes of the 20th century. The Dallas location was a small 500-square-foot office that housed 9 employees. Her son Richard took over the financials and business management. Mary Kay developed products, made sales, and recruited, trained, and motivated the beauty consultants. That first year, the lights in the Dallas office could be seen burning into the night and were back on before sunrise. Everyone took massive action, and to the skeptics' amazement, with sales of over $198,000, Mary Kay Cosmetics showed a profit in the first year. The following year, sales approached $1 million, and they were off. Mary Kay did everything and was everywhere. She sold, recruited, trained, motivated, acknowledged, and rewarded her sales force. She created promotional materials and even published a newsletter for new recruits. The company grew daily, relying on its philosophy of encompassing the strengths familiar to women. Mutual support and teamwork were its foundation, and their beauty consultants were encouraged to attain and help others attain their goals. No matter how small or large, every accomplishment was recognized and rewarded. The company's product line featured skincare creams and cosmetics that women could sample at home and order from their personal consultants. Its growth plan was to organize successful sales units that could be duplicated. Although her business was doing well, she knew it would be impossible to grow if she continued doing everything herself, so a national director system was created to clone the new Mary Kays. The company's goal was to become the largest and best in the country. Mary Kay Ash. The world's best motivational and business speakers were featured in the annual directors meeting, the seminars. Mary Kay taught her staff and consultants the golden rule, to see the invisible sign, a sign worn by everyone that said, "Make me feel important." The focus was always on service rather than sales. Consultants were told, "You're not really selling cosmetics. You're offering youth, beauty, hope, and self-esteem." As years passed, Mary remarried, and the company began to have a real impact in the marketplace. Mary Kay never stopped searching for better and more exciting awards for her most successful consultants. The first company award was a Golden Goblet. The cup initially worked, although Mary Kay realized her repeat winners needed something different. So Golden Trays and similar prizes were added. Yet Mary Kay dreamed of something better. Then the Star Consultant Program was introduced. It featured an attractive ladder lapel pin. When a consultant reached her quarterly goal, a jeweled star was placed on the next rung of her pin. The STAR program also created some excitement. However, one day Mary Kay read an article stating, an aerodynamic study had proved that the bumblebee's body was too large and its wings too small for it to fly. Turning to her husband, she exclaimed, "That's just like women." A few days later, a package addressed to her arrived at her home. Inside, she found a diamond bumblebee pin. Once she saw that pin, a brand new awards program came into being. Her queen-level consultants would receive a diamond bee pin. And though the bee pin was popular and other rewards were added, Mary Kay was never quite satisfied. She still imagined something spectacular. The company's massive success gave her the freedom to spend money as she pleased. However, Mary Kay didn't have time to spend money on herself. Yet one morning, she pulled into the Dallas Lincoln dealership on a whim. And before she could even explain what she wanted, the salesman stopped her and, in so many words, said, "Little lady, go home and get your husband, and when you come back, we'll get you a Lincoln." Oh, big mistake. Mary Kay simply took her business to the Cadillac dealership, where her welcome was much better. Yet when she opened her compact and said, "I want a car this color," the shocked salesman exclaimed, "That's pink. You want a pink car? Do you realize how much it will cost to have one car painted pink? And you won't be able to return it if you're not happy." Mary never flinched and ordered a car of the color of her compact's mountain laurel tone. A few weeks later, when her pink car arrived, she picked it up and drove to her company's parking lot. 5 of her national directors were working at the office that day. When those women saw what she was driving, they were speechless. All 5 directors had to have one. Then the light came on in Mary Kay's head. This eye-catching automobile would become the company's ultimate reward. Not only would it provide a powerful sales incentive, but it would become a potent new company symbol. So for the first time in 1969, Mary Kay awarded her top 5 producers a 2-year lease on a brand new, blush-colored, pink Cadillac Coupe de Ville. And did that ever work? The pink Cadillac became the most coveted award in the company's history and a symbol that the world would identify with Mary Kay Cosmetics. To an outsider, spotting one of those pink cars was exciting as coming across a Rolls-Royce, a DeLorean, or an infamous Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. GM's pink Mary Kay fleet would eventually be valued at over $130 million. For over 50 years, those pink Cadillacs have remained a coveted symbol of success throughout the civilized world. Now, you might think this would be enough sales motivation, but not for Mary Kay. She never stopped searching. The next Ultimate Achievement Award was to become a queen for a day. Those winners were honored by sending them down a runway in front of thousands of screaming Mary Kay consultants to be crowned with a jeweled tiara, wrapped in fur, given a gorgeous diamond ring, and presented with a massive bouquet of red roses. The Mary Kay annual events rivaled Broadway, Hollywood, and the Miss America pageant in their dazzle and elegance. But the spirit of camaraderie and motivation they produced was worth the effort. Mary Kay knew these ladies would never have a chance for that kind of experience anywhere else, so she provided them with one. She loved and respected her consultants, and they not only loved her, but they also appreciated the unmatched opportunity she offered them. Ash once said, "The success of Mary Kay Inc. is much, much deeper than just dollars and cents and buildings and assets. The real success of our company is measured to me in the lives that have been touched and given hope." The company's spirit and the underlying philosophy continued to propel Mary Kay Cosmetics to success after success. Her mother and children were right. She could do it, and she did it. Mary Kay was able to help women throughout the world. At her death in 2001, the company had over 800,000 consultants in 37 countries with annual sales of more than $2 billion. Loved by all who knew her, Mary Kay left a legacy that will live on in the many people she touched. She certainly left her mark on the business world, and it was pink. In 2000, Lifetime Television named Mary Kay Ash the most outstanding woman in business in the 20th century. I envisioned a company in which any woman could become just as successful as she wanted to be. The doors would be wide open to opportunity for women who were willing to pay the price and had the courage to dream. Mary Kay Ash.
Amazing story. We'll talk about it when we get back here on The Real Impact Daily Inspiration Program. This is the series on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Dennis Henson, and this is Real Impact. Dennis, the story we just heard, so many things were going through my mind as we were listening to Mary Kay and her rise. There was no fall. There was a rise. But the thought that occurred to me about her family was this. There's a biblical passage in the Old Testament. Raise up a child in the way he or she should go, and when they get old, they will not depart from it. I point that at her children because she raised them to be of service, not just to everybody else, but also, you could also take that one commandment, honor thy mother and thy father. And boy, did they. That to me speaks volume. Even you could, don't take the rest of the story away, but you could. That right there to me is incredible.
I agree. She was an amazing person, and she struggled as a child because, when she was 7 years old, this is just a tiny girl in Houston. She lived in a suburb of Houston. She was responsible for everything in the home. She did the cooking, the ironing, the cleaning. Her father was so sick he couldn't get out of the bed. When it was time to go shopping, she would take a bus to downtown Houston and purchase what all the family needed and brought it back. Can you imagine that? That's just amazing. And then she was also quite intelligent. She graduated at the top of her class. So her whole life was just amazing. What's told here is just a brief. You can just read about her for hours and hours and hours. But this is just a brief idea of how the company came about and the struggles she had getting to that.
Yeah, it also reminds me of Henry Ford's quote that you've used in your quotes section of your book. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And was it her mother that said to her, you can do it?
Yes.
And
Yeah, she would call her mother. Her mother was working in a restaurant. And when she didn't know a recipe or how to do something, she would call her mother at the restaurant, and the mother would explain it to her, a 7-year-old kid, and would always end by saying, "Don't worry, honey, you can do it." She would encourage her, "You can do
Mhm.
it." So then, when her husband died later in life, and she didn't know what to do, her kids, who she trained the same way, came to her and said, "Mother, you can do it."
Mhm.
And that was the encouragement that made Mary Kate. I mean, we wouldn't even know her name. There
Yeah.
wouldn't be a company had they not told her that.
When she started getting into this whole aspect of rewarding her salespeople, the people who were doing this, you know, I thought, okay, she signed people up, I would think, who wanted to do it, who loved doing it, who loved the product, and so on and so forth. And whether she gave them any kind of an award or reward for reaching certain levels, I think they still would have done what they did. But she had such a heart in her that she said, no, we got to do something to honor these milestones that these people are putting in for my company, so to speak. It was theirs too, but I think that's kind of my observation. Is that what you got too?
Yes, when she first started in network marketing and went to the convention and saw the queen crowned and getting all of the accolades, she remembered how she felt, and she was inspired to go back and study and work hard, and she was going to be the queen the next year, and she was.
Yeah.
And she wanted to instill that same inspiration in the people that worked for her, and it really worked. And when it said she brought in the top speakers, I mean, she brought in the very best motivational speakers of the day. Zig Ziglar that was a normal speech for him to make every year, but
Hmm.
she'd bring in the biggest names that there were, and they would speak. Of course, that got the ladies motivated also. Excuse me.
Yeah. And we all need that, don't we? I mean, it's like, okay, I love what I do. I've been doing it for 45 years, on and off, I will say, because I had a couple of stints where I drifted away from radio for a short time, broadcasting. Well, I always came back, and I love what I do. And it would be nice to, yeah, a friend of mine, we did this series of programs on mythology, and he nominated one of our episodes. He submitted our that program that we did for a Peabody Award. So I was justified in saying the Peabody Award nominated Tell Me Your Story, but it wasn't somebody else selected it. We, you know, but it would have
Right.
been nice to have won. But then again, that was my first experience with something like that. We didn't, of course, but you know what? That was okay because I wasn't going to stop doing it just because I didn't win one award or win any award for that matter. Uh, that has never been the focal point. And I have to wonder sometimes if folks get into some of these areas where they have this expectation and would you say, let me ask you about that. You think that that's one of those things we really need to work on letting go of? It's okay to dream and have goals, but those aren't expectations necessarily. It's when we start envisioning the way it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to come about. That's the thing I'm thinking that we need to let go of.
I agree. I think though, when I was a band director, uh, back then schools had to raise money, bands had to raise money to get instruments and uniforms and go on trips and so forth. And we had a fundraiser come in, and he wanted to sell candy. And I thought I was the greatest band director in the world at the time, and I could motivate the kids. And he wanted to inspire them by offering them prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's not necessary. Don't worry about it. If I tell them to go out and sell this candy, they'll go out and sell the candy. So we had a candy drive, and they didn't sell very much candy. I mean, I had a whole storage room full of candy. And he came back in and said, now, let me offer the prizes and see what happens. Well, he brought out all these carnival prizes. To me, it didn't look like they were worth much. And they went out and sold all the candy the next night. I thought, that's amazing. It's just amazing how it changes people to have something to shoot for. You know, I think the top prize was $50, and then they got, little guitar, little ukuleles and belt buckles, little nothing things, but they went out and sold the fire of the candy. So Mary Kay knew something about people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember in the 70s seeing a pink Cadillac and being so impressed, just thinking, oh, wow, look at this. Whoever I was with, I said, look, there's a Mary Kay car, which was exciting, an exciting thing. I also saw a Wienermobile one time, and a DeLorean. So I guess I've been lucky.
It's amazing. It truly is. And there are moments in our lives when we, so to speak, we award ourselves. Now, I don't mean that by saying that, you make this sale and you go out and you buy yourself a steak dinner. No, I'm talking about experiences that we have. We know that they were incredible. They were profound. They were spectacular from our perspective. All right. In our perception. And then someone comes along and they recognize that. All right. And I've used, case in point, Veterans Day, what was it, 1999. And I was working, it was November, I believe it was November 11th. I believe that's the date. And we were producing this 4-hour morning show. And it went flawlessly. And when we got to the end and we went to the legal ID and then we went to network news, I shut everything down and I stood up and I'm going, oh, man, that felt good. That was so exciting. I want to keep doing that kind of thing. And then the program director walks into the control room, puts his hand across the console to me. I shake his hand and he says, 4 stars. And it was like, oh, good. I wasn't the only one, but it would have been okay if I was the only one. And those are the kinds of awards or rewards, if you will, that we give ourselves. But there is a little bit of a challenge for a lot of folks because a lot of folks don't have that self-confidence to receive that, even in their own little circle of self. They don't have that confidence. Do you feel, and I already know the answer to this question, that Real Impact Daily Inspiration can help someone to develop that confidence?
Well, sure it can. The purpose of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration book is to help people form a very positive habit, the habit of reading something positive every day that will move them toward their ultimate goal. And in turn, it reminds them of their ultimate goal and helps them become motivated. Well, if you're thinking of positive things and moving in a positive direction, you can't be moving in the other direction at the same time. You can only move, it's like being in a car. I live in Dallas, and I can't go to Waco and to Oklahoma City at the same time. It's one or the other, and that's how your emotions work. So if you're not motivated, it's hard to stay in neutral. You're either going to be one or the other. And it seems like the negative things want to creep in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're reading something positive every day and you're moving in a positive direction, then that kind of crowds out the negative feeling. And if you're stuck, this is a good habit to form to get you unstuck.
Mm. Well, it's exciting to go through these stories, listen to them, and basically be inspired to get that motor running and put it in gear and move forward. And we hope folks will do that. We'll talk about that as we continue. Talking with Dennis Henson, I'm Richard Dugan, and this is the Real Impact series on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan.
Can we stop for a second?
Sure.
Okay, my wife's calling me. She's called me several times. And
Oh, go for it, please. I know. 3, 2. Tell Me Your Story is the program that gives you new paradigms for a new world, and I guarantee you're going to get a new paradigm if you get a copy of Real Impact Daily Inspiration, because it's going to change you. It will change you. There's no question in my mind. And I was talking with someone just the other day. They were asking me those kinds of questions. Well, what is it that you want to do and achieve, and then this and then that? I said, I want to change. I want to grow. I want to evolve. I want to go beyond one specific thing, Dennis, the poverty mentality. I want no more of that. I do not want to live there anymore. And I've made some decisions in the last year that actually I'll go back even further, the last 5 years, that I think have really helped me to start to shift away from that, because our mindset, and you've talked about getting our minds right, our mindset is a huge contributor to who we are and where where we're going. Talk to us about that.
Well, that you remind me of the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. I think it's by Schwartz. And your mind, how you think of things determines what level you are economically. So people who are making $500,000 and working in the business think differently from people who are making $70,000.
Yeah.
And people who are making $2 or $3 million, they think of things in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you get to choose how you think about things. I mean, you're set in a habit, but that don't mean you can't change. So that there's a new book out, like Think Like a Billionaire. I don't remember who wrote it. I'm embarrassed that I don't, but it's a very interesting process, understanding, because I listen to people quite often talking about their concerns, and I think in some cases I'll think, well, that's interesting. That wouldn't have concerned me at all. Mm-hmm. It's not even in my radar.
Yeah.
But then there's other people that would think of my concerns the same way. They would think, well, that's way down here. They're thinking in a different level. And so if you can change your thinking, you can also change your income, the money that's coming in, the deals that you're working. And so I know in my past, I've always needed more because I'm an entrepreneur and I get in deeper. So when I hear people think, oh, I won $20,000, I think $20,000 that wouldn't even pay a bill. So it's interesting to believe and know, and you can find this out just by reading and just by going to the library and studying how people think and feel that are on a different level than you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know how that relates to this story, but I hope it does.
Well, I think it does, because she had a mindset. Mary Kay had a mindset, and it was developed early on, of course, by her mother, who said, yes, you can do this. You can do it.
Right.
And that's what I think, on a regular basis. It's a great phrase for each one of us to consider incorporating into our list of, shall we say, quotes or mantras, however you want to put it, or meditation phrases. I can do it. I can do it. And even if you don't believe it right now, go back in your life. And this is one of the things too that going back into our past, I think is helpful in terms of those things that back in your past you said, "No, I can't do that," and then you did it anyway, and you were successful. Or either way, you successfully did it, or you failed at it, and you tried it again, and so on and so on and so on. But it's important to take a look at our past victories and keep an account. Don't keep a list necessarily of your failures, although our failures teach us something too. You know, that's important.
I agree. There was something that in that story that I don't want to let slip by.
Please.
She taught everyone that worked with her to look for the invisible sign that says, "Make me feel important." Now, at one time in my life, early in my writing career, I've always wanted to write something, and I was going to write a book on time management. And I remembered the story that I'd heard years and years ago about the $25,000 idea. That's going to be in Real Impact too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the $25,000 idea was a time management system that Carnegie learned from Lee Ivey. Well, I knew that it was a great story, and I'd heard it on a cassette tape 20 years earlier in the 70s, but it was in the early 90s that this was happening, and I was writing the book, and I thought, well, if you go to the library, there wasn't an internet in the early 90s. So if you go to the library, I've always heard, well, ask the librarian. So I went to the library in Carrollton. And I went to the librarian and I said, "I'm looking for this story." And she said, "I have no idea which book that's in, but I know Mary Kay tells that story." And I thought, okay. So I went back home. I was living in Farmers Branch. Carrollton and Farmers Branch are right beside each other. And I was living in an apartment. And if you went up to the top floor of the apartment and looked out, you could see Mary Kay Cosmetics from my apartment.
Mm.
And I thought, well, I'll just go over there and ask her. Then I thought, well, might be a better idea if I called first. So I called over there, and I was a kid, this was years ago. And I said, "May I speak with Mary Kay?" And they said, "Well, who is this?" And I said, "Well, I'm an author. I'm writing a book, and I want this story." And she said, "Hold on." So then I thought Mary Kay was going to come on, but it was her personal assistant. Now, that's an amazing thing that you call a big company like that and you get the president's personal assistant. But I wasn't impressed because I didn't know. And she asked me what I wanted, and I told her, and she said, "Do you have a fax machine?" And I said, "I do." And she said, "Well, we'll see what we can do." In about 30 minutes, I received about 10 pages of handwritten fax signed by Mary Kay. That it was the entire story. She had sat down and wrote that story out to somebody she'd never heard of. There's no way I could have ever helped her in any way possible. And she spent 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 of her time writing that story out and sending it to me by fax. And I thought, now that's pretty amazing. And as I got older and learned more about how important she was, and then I was doing that research and I heard that where she taught her representatives to look for the sign that said, "Make me feel important." She made me feel important. And I was nobody. I mean, I was literally, at that time, I was literally nobody. and she made me feel important. So she really meant that. And when you really mean something, it's easier to teach other people to feel that way too. So I
Yeah.
have a great deal of respect for Mary Kay and what she went through and what she actually was able to do.
You know, it's incredible what these folks go through to achieve the things that they achieve. Mary Kay specifically, because that's the story that we focused on today. Yes, you can do it, is the mantra you want to incorporate into your life as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, the Real Impact series. I'm Richard Dugan with Dennis Henson. And Dennis, this has been a lot of fun. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes here. I want to go over some of these things that we talk about in each of these programs, and that is the website, which is realimpactbook.com. And there's a lot there. Matter of fact, I was there this morning, just scrolling up and down both sides and going sideways and all that good stuff, and just seeing what's there. Let's go ahead and tell our listeners about not only the free gift, if you will, that you offer, but also the opportunities that are available to them to be a part of another person's future.
Well, thank you, Richard. There are a lot of things on that site. There's a little game where you find the lamp and you can win the audio book. There's 3 gifts that you can get by scrolling to the bottom and clicking on podcast attendee. You have a choice of 3. You can get all 3 of them if you'd like. Then there's the very first link that says The Mystery of the Lamp. The book has a lamp on the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you want to know why, there's a link there that has a recording that tells you about the mystery of the lamp. And then what you were mentioning is there's one tab that says Help the Children, which is a GoFundMe account. And if you donate to that, all of the money you donate goes toward purchasing these books to give to disadvantaged children.
Mm-hmm.
We distribute them through libraries and disadvantaged communities, through schools that don't have budgets sufficient to purchase this kind of a book. And we give them to nursing homes and senior citizen centers. And every penny, there's no president that like if you give something to Goodwill or Salvation Army, a lot of that money is not charitable. It goes to running the business. There's none of that with this. Every penny goes toward purchasing these books to help change the direction of young people's lives.
It's really very cool. And I know that I talk with people on occasion who they talk about how I want to do, I feel like I need to do something important to help people and so on and so forth. And there are lots of different ways passively that we can do that. My wife and I, on the healing level, we are Reiki masters, so we know how to send this healing energy to people. Absentee, they call it an absentee healing. They use the energy however they wish. But there was something, and I don't know about you, Dennis, but there's a passage in the Bible about giving alms and how you do it. You do it privately. You don't, make a big deal out of it. So I don't
Right.
want to make a big deal out of it, but I'll just put it this way. I did something today on my way into work that is the form of pay it forward. And it wasn't a lot, and it didn't have to really be. It didn't matter. It was the gesture more than the amount. And I said, here, put this towards the next person's whatever they're purchasing. And that's a surprise to them. And you never know, that could start a trend in that line and say, okay, well, then the person behind me does the same thing for the person behind them and so forth. And it's just a nice surprise. And I don't know, I felt led to do it. I almost didn't do it. I thought, oh, come on, that's not a lot. Well, so what? It's something. And you want to help out the next person who, I don't know, maybe the next person used their mobile app and already paid for it. So it'll go to the next person who's going to use their debit card or their credit card or whatever. Oh, don't worry about it. It was taken care of by one of the other people ahead of you. Boy, wouldn't that be nice to have that happen to you? And it may have just been for a cup of coffee, okay, or a Danish or something, but still, that feels pretty good. It was like, and there's a sense of, oh, I got this for free. But in a sense, that sort of puts the, I don't want to say the onus, because you don't have to, but it puts that on you saying, okay, now how about you? Would you like to participate in this wonderful little giving fest, kindness fest, I think is a better way to put it. And I appreciate the fact that you've been so kind to join us here on Tell Me Your Story to share this book with not just myself, but everybody that's listening and watching. So thank you so much for being here and being a part of this.
Well, I really appreciate you having me, Richard, and I really enjoy these.
Folks, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. The choices we're giving you today and in this series have to do with a book called Real Impact Daily Inspiration. We hope you'll get a copy by going to realimpactbook.com. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.